Jerusalem, the city of Islam. Today, I'm interviewing Paul Ellis on the origins of Islam, and in the Quran, the constant references to the house of God. And when we look at the Bible as its connections, we constantly see Jerusalem being the locale. Why is it that Muslims prayed in that direction, but then it changed? While the Muslim sources say Mecca, while others are arguing Petra as a source for Muhammad's journeys in the beginning, Jerusalem is the only place we have a coin. We have numismatic evidence supporting the case that early Islam started and was birthed from the city of Jerusalem. In this 25-part series with Paul Ellis, we're going to go through these arguments, supporting the case of Jerusalem playing a much more significant role in early Islam than what the Islamic tradition tells you.
Is the Umayyad menorah coins, and this is going to be very short because we've been talking quite a while now. The Umayyad menorah coins. In Exodus chapter 25, the same chapter that talks about the building of the Ark of the Covenant, God tells Moses, amongst other things, you shall make a lampstand of pure beaten gold, its shaft and branches with its cups, knobs, and petals springing directly from it. 6 branches are to extend from the sides of the lampstand, 3 branches to one side and 3 branches to the other. And a few verses later, you shall then make 7 lamps for it, and so set up the lamps that they shed their light on the space in front of the lampstand. So very detailed and precise instructions to make the lampstand that is now known as the menorah. And here I have some illustrations of how the menorah came to be symbolic of Judaism. And you can see now that the menorah is now used as a symbol of Judaism, but it's also a Christian symbol. It's just used as a symbol for the Jerusalem temple. I mean, I sometimes go to Mass at Brompton Oratory in London, and that has got 2 very smart, very large menorah. And many churches have menorah and 7 branch candlesticks as a symbol of the Jerusalem temple, which of course we now associate with the body of Jesus. Well, when the Arab conquerors started minting their own coins, they minted some coins that were gold and which had a Christian or Byzantine iconography upon them, and that's curious in itself. In the East, they continue to mint coins in the Sasanian style, in silver dirhams, still with Zoroastrian fire altars on them, with Arabic text. But one type of coin that hasn't received any real attention are these small copper coins that have the menorah and around it Arabic script, the Shahada, saying there is no God but God. And it seems to me that this coin is solid, hard evidence that the Arab conquerors saw the Jerusalem temple as the symbol that they wanted to adopt for their empire. Not in the golden, well, there's almost a biblical sort of significance to this. The answer is not in the gold or the silver. The answer is to be found in the bronze. And these little bronze coins, which are available to be bought, they're not particularly rare. They just haven't received very much academic attention. And this seems to me a real statement that the Arab conquerors saw the Jerusalem temple as being the thing that they would like to identify themselves with.
And if I can, I'm just going to show coins on my end for them to see up close, the menorah and these are there's obviously Arabic writing there for anybody to see it. So anyway, yep, keep going.
Yeah, but that's kind of it. That's I've run out of my material. Just ask everybody. I've gone through this. It's taken me 2 hours. So congratulations again to anybody who's made it to the end, the bit of enders. But the sources, and it's all laid out, no doubt, far more structured way in my article, Jerusalem, City of Islam. And I would cordially invite all your viewers to read it, download it, and to comment on it, and pass me any emails, publicly or privately, with their thoughts upon it. Jerusalem, City of Islam, on the Academia website.
There is so much to uncover in not only your work and what you're doing, but also just exploring what we call early Islam, or the origins of Islam. And I've seen some Muslims even post that they don't even like the statement origins of Islam, because their entire tradition and the way that they believe it today may not be different. I'm sure it's different than what we're talking about with what's in the Quran and the people who wrote the Quran, the way they believed. But they'll say stuff like, what do you mean origins of Islam? Islam is the earliest. It goes all the way back. So they have this tradition that is on steroids, so to speak. And you can't really talk about origins of Islam to them, because they're like, no, Abraham was a Muslim. Jesus was a Muslim. And when you deal with this, you're like, are they even, I don't know how would you approach that kind of issue? You know what I'm talking about, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, my background is law, so I'm used to finding sneaky little verbal formulas to get around that sort of thing. You could say the origins of well, you could talk about the life of Prophet Muhammad, I suppose, and the origins of the community that received the Quran, I guess, would be the way you would put it. Yeah, the Quran is just, it makes it so obvious that it wants to be part of this revelation history. It wants to be volume 3. It wants to say that the Torah is the Torah for the Jew, the people of Scripture, the people of the book, and the honors the Injil. And this is where it all comes to its fulfillment. This is the last installment just before the end of the days. That's how the Quran author sees it. He wouldn't have seen it, particularly the origins of Islam. He would have seen it as the end of the revelation history, wouldn't he?
Right. Yeah, this is another interesting note is I'll hear Muslims try to find Muhammad being foreshadowed when it talks about the Holy Spirit in the New Testament that will come and teach you all things like that. Like they reinterpret the Holy Spirit to mean Muhammad, but then it's like they'll borrow from the book or the New Testament or whatever book might be borrowed, and then turn around and talk about that's corrupted. And like they don't really have a handbook that tells you what is and isn't corrupted, but if it fits their view and they're wanting to use it to point to their prophet, that can't be corrupted.
There's someone like a polemicist like David Wood would be very good at something like that, showing the logicality of their position. Now, I've presented over the last 2 hours 3 of my 25 arguments for the Jerusalem thesis. There's a lot more there, and it seems to me that this is not a phrase that's become used in this neighborhood as being holes in the narrative. People says based upon what Yasser Qadhi said in an interview last year or the year before. It talks about the holes in the narrative. Now we can start filling in those holes. Once one accepts, or if one accepts, that the Masjid al-Haram is a reference to Jerusalem, one can start reconstructing the Quran. One has to go back to the beginning and read the Quran from the get-go, knowing that the Masjid al-Haram and the Kaaba and the Station of Abraham are all references to Jerusalem, and that when he's talking about jihad and killing and so on, he is not being a brutal dictator. He's not a modern day Attila the Hun or Genghis Khan. He's referring to what I was always tended to think of as the bad bits of the Bible.
Right.
He's drawing his authority from Joshua and the Israelite conquest of Canaan and their purification of the Holy Land, and
Right.
he's replicating that in text. We don't know how many people got killed and raped during these 5 or 6 years of Muhammad's Palestine campaign, but there's no evidence to say that this is some terrible genocidal conquest. My feeling is that it sounds very blood-curdling, and no doubt it is, at the end of the day, a 7th century warlord. There are going to be some heads rolling, but he's not the monster that the literal interpretation of the Quran makes him appear. He's praying in aid, the book of Genesis and the book of Exodus and the rules in Leviticus and Deuteronomy, and he's employing these to gee up his fighters to conquer Jerusalem. And that is his story. And if one reads the Quran in that light, and then I think it's like a crossword, and you've got several of the major words, and we're well placed to get out some of the more difficult ones now.
I think it's an interesting way you're approaching that. I mean, obviously, we today hope to get away from battle, warfare, and whatnot. But if you're going to mimic prophets and have a blueprint for how you want to do that, and you're in the vein of the Abrahamic tradition, and you know that praying, the Persians and praying the Byzantine Empire away isn't working, you're going to have to take a sword. Well, you have examples of that prior to that you can use in which you would go in combat. So I hear people who want to polemicize and say, yeah, Muhammad was just this radical, bloodthirsty warlord, evil guy. But I guess so was Heraclius then. And I guess so was the emperor or the leader in Persia, the king in Persia. Like, where do you draw this line? Everybody's cutting everyone's head off. Like In God's Path, I read Robert Hoyland's work, and everybody's doing it. But yeah, I think we shouldn't go too far one way or the other, but this is an interesting way of connecting the dots, which always made me wonder, why is there, if this was, as some people want to speculate, the origins of Islam was very Christian, right? Like maybe Peter von Sievers thinks it was a Christian sect or something. For me, I raise red flags to that. You could point evidence that makes me think of that, and I could go, okay, but why are they kosher? Why are they call it halal? Like, why are they practicing Mosaic traditions that are incorporated if this is such a Christian movement? And then some people want to go, but it's like a Jamesian Christian movement, like the Ebionites or something. And I'm thinking, I don't know. I can imagine a Jewish type of movement, but why are both aspects in there? And that's what always confused me.
Yes, a lot there. One point I would say is I think we need to get away from this model, this paradigm of looking for a box to put the Quran author in. I don't think the Quran author belongs in any box. The idea that he's this or he's that, and you try and find the perfect thing. I think he's creative. I think he does various things in the Quran that are entirely original to him. For example, he takes Jacob, and he makes Jacob a third son of Abraham. He's not Abraham's grandson through Isaac. Jacob becomes the third son, and Esau disappears from the picture altogether. And to me, this is creative. This is somebody who's making his own changes to the narrative. And so to say, oh, well, he's an Ebionite, or he's a Christian, or he's a Jew. And one thing we can say with certain is that he regarded himself as an Ishmaelite, because in Surah 2, he presents himself as the prophet that is raised in answer to Abraham's prayer. Abraham prays for a prophet to rise from, that Abraham and Ishmael pray for a prophet from their descendants. And then in Surah, I think verse 151, I think, the Quran author presents himself as the answer to that prayer. So we know that he's an Ishmaelite, but that's about as far as we can take it. One other point I would just maybe mention is that some Christians aren't very Christian, and some Christians, not particularly Catholics, I don't think we're particularly guilty of this, but some Christians, particularly on some of the more extreme Protestant groups, seem to love the Old Testament so much more than the New Testament. And they give themselves Old Testament names rather than New Testament names, and they love quoting bits of the Old Testament, and somehow Jesus's message tends to take a bit of a back seat. So it could be that Muhammad was of that ilk. He was aware of the New Testament, but to him the Old Testament seemed so much more attractive.
Especially in light of the situation, I think. I don't think turn the other cheek seems like something he would want to work in the 7th century. But I liked a presentation done by Patricia Crone, and I wish she was still around. I would have interviewed the heck out of her. She'd have probably been annoyed by me by now. But the acculturated native who rebels. She did a presentation, and Sean Anthony told me that I really should check this out, because I said, if you were to make a guess out of the origin of Islam, and what is going on, he said you might want to go to the nativist conquest movement responding to the spread of Judaism and Christianity into Arabia. And he says, what is a nativist movement? Glad you asked. He sent me the link, and in it she discusses and describes characters in history like Moses. Moses was born according to the text, whether you think there's a historical guy or not. The model is that here is this guy born and raised into a household that is not his own. He discovers his own people being treated a certain way. He identified as one person, but became another person in this life. He used Gandhi as another example, or she used Gandhi to point out that he was this regular, like Westerner type, Indian person who wanted to fit in with Western society. And then one day he goes to try and join a group or whatever. I can't remember what the exact details are, but he is like, no, you're not one of us. And they like make him feel kind of like in racist America, you can't go in this restaurant if you're not white or something like that. So it scarred him. And Gandhi decided he would pursue some type of philosophy in his life. He created his own type of philosophy, and he was a certain identity, but then transferred his identity to be something else. For whatever reason, it impacted him in such a way. And Patricia Crone is trying to say, maybe Muhammad is a character like that, who identifies as an Arabian, who finds himself being the identity of Ishmaelites. For whatever reason, he finds himself to probably fit a prophet model. You see over and over Christian monks play a role. You see Jewish rabbis play a role. Everybody's kind of tapping into this guy, but he is his own little breed of whatever. And I don't know what the truth is. I just think it's an interesting thing.
I agree. The analogy with Gandhi is a very good one, because Gandhi is seen as this archetypal spiritual leader. And yet it's very difficult to say what his religion is. It doesn't, you assume it's Hindu, but it's much broader than that. It's a sort of, it's a very good analogy. Somebody who's religious leader more than actually belonging to a religion.
Exactly. Paul, this has been a wonderful presentation. I really want to have you back. I wrote down, we have 4 clips technically, okay, of this all. And this final one right here is our last clip right now that we've done. What I'd like to do, if you're interested, is to do more presentations going through each of your arguments as time goes by, if you would be interested.
I would love to. It would be a saga. It would go on longer than some well, longer than the Waltons. You know,
let's do it. Let's do it, and maybe HBO will pick us up. I'm just kidding.
What I would like is the one thing I've not been able to do, because I've been putting out these ideas. I'm not naturally a self-publicist, so I don't really have the glamour and the glitz and the razzmatazz to actually get any real kind of attraction on this. But what I want is people to criticize it. I want people to try and pick holes in it. You've been a perfect host as always, and you're nodding, you're kind of, I want somebody to get in there and try and find why it's wrong, because that's the way an argument gets better. And so far, nobody does. One guy called Islamic Pie set up a website, set up a YouTube channel specifically to rebut my thesis, and he was unable to do so. He never really made very many videos, and in the end, a very nice guy, very courteous, very informed and intelligent, and when he really got down to it, he couldn't do it, and he took this website down. So I really want somebody out there who disagrees with this and say why, what's wrong.
Well,
but yeah, I'm more than happy to go through the other 21 or so. That's
let's do it. Let's go through them. And you heard the man. I am this kind of host. I don't pick apart my guest like that. It's not been my my interest. I'm more about trying to get the information, let the audience make up their mind. And if you are critical of what you hear, feel free to comment it down below. We have the comment section beneath in YouTube, and maybe we'll do a Q&A at some time, Paul, where we can actually allow people to super chat questions in, and their question will be popped up on the screen, and then you can respond to the best of your ability. Preferably people who are responding to actual arguments you make, rather than asking things that you may not know about, or maybe outside of your purview, whatever. But that's something we could plan in the future. Let us know in the comment section what you thought of these videos, and thank you so much for Paul for showing up.
Two final points. Third final point. Thank you very much for having me. It's been great. I've really enjoyed this. It's a great experience for me. One point is I have to say thank you to our mutual friend, who I think you referred to earlier as Umar. So thank you very much to him. He has been an absolute inspiration to me. He's given me loads of information, lots of graphics. Very, very busy, very active behind the scenes. A great person. The second point is I just thought I'd mention, just to brag, because I have that kind of vanity about me. I have in my possession one of these menorah coins. So I possess real hard evidence of the Jerusalem thesis. It's not just something that exists in words. It's something that you can hold in the palm of your hand. And so there you are. I think we need to make these safe before they all disappear.
And just to make sure, there is a close-up to give you an idea of what one of these coins would have looked like. That may not be the one you have, of course. It's just pointing out that,
it's very similar. I don't think the camera will pick it up particularly.
No, it has a glare. Either way, you have a real one.
I have it. I know it.
Thank you, Paul. Everybody go down in the description, check out his academia page. Let us know what you think. We're going to continue doing this show, and never, ever forget, in case you have cognitive dissonance or you just can't remember or whatever, we are MythVision.